Good evening. I'm Scott Elliott. I'm the artistic director of the New Group Theater Company here in beautiful New York City, beautiful, vibrant New York City, a little empty, but beautiful and vibrant all the same. And these conversations that we do, there are Why We Do It series. We invite artists that have worked with us, over the years to come and chat about, what they're doing at this crazy moment in time. Um, anyway, we had a break for a couple of weeks, but now we're back. This week we have Nico Santos, which I will tell you about. I'll tell you about him in a minute. But next week we have Natasha Leone, and so actually not next week. It's on Monday. We have Natasha Leone at 7. So come and talk with me and see me and Natasha talk on Monday at 7 live. She's a old friend of mine and a wonderful actress and like a sister to me, really. So that should be a fun conversation. And also a little bit of housekeeping. We're a nonprofit theater company. We remain in existence in a time when it's really challenging for theater companies. But if you happen to have any spare change in the house, see that link on the bottom. Go there and give us a little. This is free, but nothing is free. We have to pay for everything. So I hope that you'll consider giving us something. Any amount helps, and we'll go to a good cause, our beloved theater company. So this evening we have somebody who one of my most delightful friends, Nico Santos. He is a wonderful actor with some great stories. He's hilarious, and he was in our production of Jesse Eisenberg's play. I think that was last year. God, I can't even remember. It feels like 100 years ago because of this thing. But anyway, here he is, Nico Santos. Hi, Nico.
Hi, how are
How you
you?
doing? I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
I'm good. It's really good to see you. I feel like it's been 10,000 years since I've seen
I
you,
know, but
but
it
it was
hasn't.
it
Was
was
that?
just last year.
It was last year, right? Oh my God.
Was
It's
last
just so
year.
weird what
Yeah.
this whole thing has done to our brains. It feels so. I was thinking like, oh, it's probably like 3 years ago. I was thinking, but then I
Yep.
was like, no, that can't be. I haven't known you that
Yeah.
long.
Time has no meaning now.
Oh
It
my
really
God.
doesn't.
I know it has the
Yeah,
meaning certainly in New York. I guess not in LA either. Although you look wonderfully LA, and you're like here I am all gloomy in New York, and you look so bright and with your LA thing going on there and the
I
sunshine.
mean, it is like 90 degrees right now, so you
Wow.
know, that's what we love about LA is the weather. So,
I love the
um,
weather. I don't like the smoke, but I like the weather. How's the smoke situation? Ever be
I
breathing okay?
mean,
I know I have some friends who were going crazy with the smoke out there.
yeah, the fires have been kind of crazy, so it's really
Hmm.
been affecting my voice. So I sound like Kathleen Turner half the time. But
Yeah,
but it's great. I mean, like the sun certainly helps keep your
it
mood
does.
and make you
That's my
forget
favorite thing
about
about LA.
yeah.
It is the sun. It's like in the morning and you go out and the sun is like you're like in the desert sun. I love that feeling in the morning there. Of course, in New York it's very different, but whatever. I like the weather in
It's
LA, but I still like New York.
very different. Last year when I came in and did an Happy Talk, of course I had been to New York as a tourist before, but that was really the first time I've lived in New York for an extended period of time, and I got to tell you, it was a much harder adjustment than I thought it would be. I really thought
Yes.
I really was ready to fall in love with New York and really just get to know the city. But I think bottom line was like I'm such a California girl that trying to navigate New York City, I was like, oh my God, which subway? Where do I go? Like it's like there's all
Yeah,
these
get my
people.
car or my yeah, give me my car. Yeah, exactly. I know.
Exactly.
I had I have a similar feeling when I go to LA. I feel out of sorts having to get in a
Yeah.
car and drive around to everywhere when normally I might walk or ride my bike or something like that in New York City.
Right. Right.
It's a different thing. Yeah, yeah, we're different that way, but we're alike in other ways, right? I think you and I felt like we had a wonderful sort of working relationship, and that was a really wonderful thing to watch
It was.
to watch you bring that character to life. I was thinking about like how I met you, and I met you at Crazy Rich Asians. Like that's how I first saw you, and I was like, when they brought you up to me for the role, and because of course I don't really watch that much television because I work nights, obviously. Although I'm watching
Mm.
more now, so then I started watching you a little bit on Superstore, and I was like, wow. And then just the way that you sort of came and you opened yourself up in such a different way, and made yourself so vulnerable in that role. It was really a beautiful thing to watch.
Oh,
So
thanks.
anyway, yeah, but anyway, so like let's talk about you because that's what this is about. So tell us your story and how you got to, like your story is so amazing and how you got where you are. Just tell everybody because I love hearing it.
It's been a very interesting journey. Definitely, I was born and raised in the Philippines. I moved to Oregon when I was 16. I we didn't really have a lot of arts education in the Philippines. There was one theater company in the Philippines doing Western plays, and that was Repertory Philippines, and they were great. And the school that I went to had only done like one musical. We had done like West Side Story, but other than that, that was my only exposure to theater. My exposure to like acting and stuff like that was mainly from television and movies. So when I moved to Oregon and was in high school in Oregon, the high school that I was attending just so happens to have a really great music department, band, choir, and drama department. So I immediately I was like this immigrant who just moved to this entirely new country. I didn't know, anybody, and I was very scared. And I sort of found uh, a community and sort of like my brothers and sisters in the theater in high school, and it was really comforting to sort of be in that bubble. And then I went to college in Ashland, Oregon, you know, and studied theater in Southern Oregon University. I started out as an actor, and I had done plays in high school and musicals in high school, and then I started out as an actor in college, but there was something. The program and I just sort of really didn't mesh well together. It was also hard being a person of color in a small town in Oregon in a
Right.
small theater department where there were no roles for me really, and the program was really classically focused. And and again, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, which is so well known, it was also based in Ashland, Oregon. Um, they were really sort of like pushing you to study that. And I love watching Shakespeare, but I really had no desire to act in anything classical. So there was sort of a disconnect for me in that program. And so I switched to costume design
Which I
because
love.
my
That's my favorite switch.
I switched to costume design. Well, first of all, my acting teacher told me that I would never make it in the business,
Of
and that
course.
I
Of course,
should
the classic
put my
story.
focus. Yes, his favorite quote to say to us was, "You may love the art, but the art doesn't love you." That's that's what he loved to say, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll be a costume designer because I love designing as well. And then after basically I ran out of money and I couldn't continue with school. So I got a job at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival doing wardrobe. I was a dresser for a few seasons. And then one of the actors that I was in charge of dressing sort of was like, you should really do stand-up comedy. You're very funny. You should do stand-up. That's what you should be doing. And this light bulb just like went off. And I was like, that's how I could still be a performer without doing, classical theater is through stand up. And when I moved to San Francisco, I really, again, immersed myself in that community and immersed myself in that art form, and then eventually moved to LA, and then started booking gigs as a comedic actor. So and through stand up, I found my way back into acting, which I never thought would happen. Um, and after doing Superstore and the movie, you guys called and we had a lovely discussion, and I was so like shocked when when I got the part, because I hadn't done a play in 20 years, and I really was just like, I don't know if I'm going to remember all all of the things
You
that I learned.
remembered all right. You didn't have a hard time remembering. I mean,
uh,
what a and that is the most amazing story. That's a movie. You have got to write that because it's
I
so
should.
wonderful and it feels so current. You know what I mean? Like there's something about that story that I can listen to over and over again. You tell it because it's just such an amazing story of event after event. It's like a page turner.
Well, I really, I hate to say it, but like I really sort of took my professor's words to heart and thought that I would just never would be an actor. And to me, it's so weird because like every other art form, dance, music, like classical acting, you really have to go to school for it and study for years, and all this stuff. I really didn't know until I became a stand-up comedian that there was a way in for me into the world of acting without having the pedigree of, Juilliard and Yale School of Drama and having done seasons at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival as an actor
Right.
or, the Globe. I really didn't think that those doors would open for me because I didn't have that pedigree. So the fact that I was able to sort of, go through the back door, um, and know that there was a legitimate career for me doing comedic acting was just such a mind opener, and I'm just so happy of where I ended up.
I'm so interested in the stand-up part of you, Nico. Like, do you still do that? You still do stand up a little bit, right? Yeah, I've
I
never seen you.
Yeah, I still
Yeah,
do
I'm
stand
so
up a little bit.
interested in that. Yeah.
Obviously, with the with the pandemic going on, like clubs
Right.
aren't open, and my filming schedule for Superstore doesn't allow me to go to the clubs every night. But when I was just doing stand up before I got into television, I was doing it like 5, 6, 7, even sometimes like 10 nights a week, just trying to get stage time over and over again. And I love stand up so much because as opposed to doing theater for the most part, there's no fourth wall in stand up. You are directly engaged with the audience, and it's instant gratification. You know, you all you have to do is tell a joke. It doesn't matter how you get there. You just have to get to point A to point B and make the audience laugh, and you immediately know if you're doing your job because you get that response. Like, I feel like sometimes in theater, people will sit through bad theater, but they won't sit through bad comedy. You know what I mean? Like, how many times have we
Right.
sat through like an awful production of, Romeo and Juliet, and we're just like, what are we watching? But they won't sit through bad comedy, you know. and and
Right. I see what you're saying. Right.
you can also tell if laughter is fake, if you're getting a pity laugh. So for me, it was just such it was a much more validating art form than doing regular theater, because I could tell right away, like, I'm doing my job right. I'm this joke is correct. This all the work that I put into this bit is right, as opposed to doing a play or doing a musical where you're always in your head of like, am I doing this moment right? I don't know. Maybe for more, really trained actors in the theater, that they have that sense. But for me, it wasn't until I did stand-up comedy that I got those sort of like spidey senses about connecting to the audience.
Oh, that's so interesting because I always imagine like being in a play that like it's interesting to sort of understand how to like carve a moment. Like I didn't like, like
Mhm.
making like it didn't work last night. Why didn't it work last night? How do I make it work tonight? So I guess that's part of being in your head, when you're on stage. And
Yeah.
in the stand-up comedy is so interesting. I mean, I'm that petrifies me, stand-up comedy in a way, because it's so vulnerable, right? You're just out there with your jokes, and like you said, like if it doesn't work, you really can feel that it doesn't work.
Oh,
Right?
there is
And the
no
theater, it's a
worse
little bit,
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, I imagine. But that's what I mean. You're so vulnerable when you do stand up. I hope that you go back to that at some point and start, once the pandemic's over and the clubs open, and that you start going back, because
Oh,
I think that that is such a great thing. You have such a gift for,
man,
the funny and finding
I
that.
definitely want to go back to stand up, but I will say, like, I think it's just a level of comfort and familiarity, because I feel at ease on stage doing stand up, very much at ease. But when I did Happy Talk last year, I mean, that's some of the most vulnerable moments of my life. Like, I really did
I
feel
see what you're saying.
so,
Yeah.
like, I I mean, I was
Because one
so
night it
just,
works, one night you feel it works, one night you feel it doesn't work. It's the same thing. It's like Groundhog
yes,
Day.
yeah,
It's like
exactly, exactly.
and the houses do differ. Because some nights it could really work, and some nights you could have you could hear a pin drop, I guess. So it's hard to. Although you never
Yeah.
did, your character, you never did. I
Well,
mean,
that was the great part
you're
about doing a comedic role in a straight play, is that I could just sort of like go in and do my little do my
Yeah,
little
I
thing,
saw
and
it as
then
more than that. I did. I mean, you brought so much depth to that part that could have been, a comedic, just a comedic role. But I thought that you brought an incredible amount of depth to it, and really, I mean, imagine like working with Susan and Marin for your first play. Do you know what I mean? And like that Susan Sarandon and Marin Ireland that he was playing in between. He
I
was like the
was
filling in the sandwich, like essentially
that
what you were,
was
right?
yeah, that
And
was truly the best and worst part of doing the play, is that you surround yourself with amazing artists, and they sort of, you have to rise to their level, because I was like, I don't want to look like a fool on stage, so you really just have to dig deep and 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 sort of give as much as they're giving, because they're incredible artists. And I learned so much through the process of being with you guys in rehearsal, and with being with Marin and Suzanne on stage. But it was also like the worst part of, like, oh my God, I'm literally acting alongside one of the best theater actresses in the country, and an Oscar winner. And I'm just like, I better not screw this up. I better not screw this up.
you certainly
Um,
didn't. You
oh
certainly
gosh.
didn't. No, you totally rose to the occasion. It was joyful to watch. So, what was your sort of? I mean, of course, I don't really talk about this in rehearsals, but what was your process in finding that character? And because you went deep and you made him you in a way, And I guess a lot of people don't know, but your musical theater chops, because of course the character was a musical theater performer, but it brought so much life to the show, the fact that you actually are also a musical theater performer. Somebody should write you a musical, which I also agree. You could headline a musical. I mean,
I
you just
would
have all these.
I would love
You,
it.
you're like a quadruple threat. So so, but talk a little bit about like the process of rehearsal for you, and like where you went and what you did and how you got there, because I'd be interested to hear it, even though I was there.
I don't know. I really sort of just, there are a lot of different types of actors, I feel. I mean, there are actors that truly transform themselves and sort of lose themselves in the roles. I think for me, I I don't mean this to sound like negative, because I don't mean it in a negative way, but like, I guess I know what my limitations are as an actor, and I just wanted to work within the confines of what I knew I could do. Um, and but there was so many parallels between me and Ronnie, that it was easy for me to sort of mold him and find those things between our lives um, that really connected. And I sort of would just, I think with every role that I play, I just sort of play a tweaked version of myself, and I just sort of would put myself in the positions that Ronnie was put through. And 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 I talked to a lot of my family members as well, who had experience. For those of you watching who don't know, the plot of the play dealt with a green card marriage, and certainly coming from a family of immigrants, I have a lot of relatives who have experience with that type of situation, or know somebody in that situation. So I did a lot of interviewing with family members, but that for me the biggest challenge was getting that scene in the end right, the confrontation between me and Susan. Um, that was probably one of the most challenging things I've ever had to tackle as an actor. I was just, there were many nights I was so afraid backstage of just like, am I gonna get there? How is this gonna play out? But it's just, I think for me, it's just finding a little piece of yourself, obviously in that character, and building upon that. So.
Yeah, well, I think that I'm just thinking about that scene because now I'm having a flashback to that scene. Yeah, that was a hard scene. It was because the characters took such a turn,
Yeah.
I mean, both of the characters did. Yeah, it was like watching a friendship dissolve, like on stage. It was
Hmm.
heartbreaking after a sort of funny play. It really did take a serious turn. But I think, you and Susan, you went where she went and she went where you went, and it really worked. I thought it packed the emotional punch that Jesse was
It
after.
was it was great. It was, I mean, one
So
of the top 10
interesting, yeah.
moments of my life. Yeah, it
Oh
was
my
really
God, that's so
powerful.
wonderful. I love
Yeah.
the fact that you said that.
No, it's
Okay,
amazing. Also, just like watching Marin go through that scene like every night. There were moments where I really had to like refocus myself and like, you're not an audience member, like you're on stage right now, like
yeah,
stop
yeah.
watching,
Marin
like
is like, yeah,
whew,
she. There's nobody like Marin on the stage.
no.
She really she knows her way around it. It's so wonderful to work with her because she really does. She just explores every corner of everything, and it always comes out with this sort of thing that is, amazing. I've watched her shows over the years, and she's really one of the greats. Yeah, you had
Yeah,
it good in that show.
I
You were lucky
did.
because you didn't have any clunkers. That's good. That's
No.
good.
And of
Hey,
course,
so all right.
Jesse was a dream. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse. Well, we all love him, and his writing is so wonderful, and he's so fun to work with, and he's such a great person and friend to have in our lives.
Um,
He really is he's a wonderful friend. Um, so yeah, so all right, so theater side, let's talk a little bit about like Superstore because of course there's a lot of Superstore fans out there,
mhm.
and that show is such a fun sort of look at something that we all that everybody gets. You know what I mean? It's that the sort of life around something like that. So how did that develop, and how did that character develop, and yeah, give us some Superstore
Yeah.
dirt.
I Superstore, like we are going into our sixth season now, and when I auditioned for
That's when
that
you make the
part,
big bucks, right? In the sixth
ooh,
season,
well,
that's the big-ish
syndication ain't
bucks.
ain't ain't what it
Okay,
used
what it
to be.
used to
So
be. Right. I heard that from some other TV stars.
yeah,
Yeah, that syndication isn't what it used to be. Oh well. All right. Well,
but
you're
listen,
still eating.
yeah, exactly. Like, I'm working, I'm doing fine. Truly, I'm right now, the fact that we're shooting and in production right now, I am so incredibly grateful because I mean, so many people, not only in the entertainment industry, in the theater industry, but just so many people out there in general are just so hard up for work. So the fact that we're able to continue with our show has been such a blessing.
That's amazing,
But
and I want to talk about that. But first, let's talk about like the genesis of that show and how you developed that character, and like what what went into that.
yeah, so Superstore, when I auditioned for the part, the part wasn't written as a gay Filipino character. It was actually written as a
Oh,
straight
interesting.
Latino guy. The original
Really? How
character,
fascinating.
yes, yeah, he was, yeah,
Phew, big switch.
exactly. I have range.
You really do.
Uh, the original version of the character was written as a sort of like um, really gruff family man. He was super aggressive, highly competitive, and I have experience working in retail. I used to work retail in San Francisco as my day job while I was doing comedy at night. I worked in like the bougie boutiques. I worked at Neiman's and
Oh,
Bottega Veneta and Jimmy Choo selling luxury wares to rich
really? Oh,
housewives.
wow.
Yes, that was my
I
day
wish
job.
I knew
Well,
you then. I might have been able to get a discount.
I still
Damn,
have the
I met
hookup,
you too
Scott.
late.
I still have the hookup.
Neiman's is
Um,
empty here. It's closed.
I
It's out of
know.
business. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so
Anyway, keep going. Let's not go there.
I I was I just sort of took my experience from retail and really when I got the sides for the character, I had just combed through it and again finding that little piece of you that resonates with that character and I actually modeled my version of the character. I modeled it after the shark the shark salespeople, the sharky salespeople at Neiman Marcus that I worked with, some the shady queens that I worked with, because it was such a super hyper competitive sales environment in those high end boutiques, and everything that this person was saying in his monologue, I was like, I've heard this before. This is what like somebody on the sales floor would basically say. So I kind of did just a version of again a version of myself of what Matei would be if Nico was the sharky, hyper competitive salesperson. And then that's what I went in during the audition, and the audition was so nerve wracking because I had only booked like two other jobs before I booked Superstore, so I was very green as far as acting in front of the camera or doing television work, and they were just very quiet during my audition. And I was like, do you guys have any notes? Want me to do it again? And then they were like, why don't you do it again? Tweak this. And I did it. And again, they were just like very quiet. And I was like, okay. They were like, thank you. And then I kind of just walked away, not, just thinking, well, that's that. And then I got the call back and then I tested and it just sort of like went to all the levels of casting and finally got that call saying that I booked it, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't know, it was just it was just crazy.
I
And here we are
imagine.
6 seasons later. So
That yeah. I mean, that's the sort of like Cinderella story, you know. I mean, I don't think people even realize like the levels and layers that you have to get through at these studios in order to even land these jobs. A lot of
yeah.
people have to like you.
Yes. Well, not only that, it's just like, you book the pilot and then you make the pilot. And then it's a question of, is this pilot going to get picked up? And then if it does get picked up, are we going to get the back nine? And if we do get the back nine, are we going to get a second season? So it's this constant sort of like question of whether you're going to be continuing your livelihood. So it's just very nerve wracking to be, this business is not for the faint of heart. Definitely, you need a
Oh,
strong
no,
constitution to
no.
stick with
Exactly.
that.
At every moment
Yeah,
for everybody. That's the truth. You know, I think we
yeah,
everybody feels that now. I mean, with industries collapsing, with our industries collapsing all over the place. So let's hear about the experience of doing a TV show in the era of COVID. I know I'm curious. I've heard some horror
yeah.
stories about everything. You're getting tested all the time. Your nose is whatever. People are, like that. There's all that stuff going on, and like zones. I'm hearing there's this zone and that
Yes.
zone. So
So
like explain it because it's such an interesting. I mean, it's crazy that they came up with these things. And I was sort of wondering. I was talking to another friend who just started a big TV show, and she was saying she was telling me everything, and I was like, well, when are you going to shoot? It seemed like there was so much stuff around. That the days
yeah,
have to get shorter.
that's the thing. Like before, we could just sort of like go over 12 hours and like work, even like 18 if we wanted, 18 hours if we wanted. But now days have to be short. The great thing about being back at work is that they are taking all these protocols, new protocols, very seriously. So shooting days have
Take us
become
through a
shorter.
day. Yeah, take us through a day. Take us like you wake up in
Yeah.
the morning. What happens?
So we
I
wake
mean,
up in the
I don't
morning.
want to know everything. Just tell me about like
Yeah.
when get in the car.
Well, the first thing is getting tested. So we get tested 5 days a week,
The
even
nose
if we're
test.
off that day. The nose test. Yeah.
Okay.
Even and different studios have different ways of handling their own protocols. But for me personally, and for Universal Studios, we get tested 5 days a week. Um, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is the rapid test, and then Tuesday and Thursday is a lab test that takes like 72 hours. So, but it is a nasal swab every time. So that's the first thing we do at the top of the day, and then you get to hair and makeup, and change into your costume, get to hair and makeup, and before, you know, the hair and makeup trailer was always a very fun, lively place to be. You're catching up with your coworkers, and now there's like plastic partitions in between each station. Only two actors and two makeup artists or hair people are allowed in the trailer. So they've had to add multiple trailers and multiple stations for everybody. There's like hand washing stations and sanitizing stations everywhere. And then we shoot, and they do it in phases because everybody just can't be on set. So, you know, at night, actually, like I think like the art department and some of the lighting also happens at night, and just they prepare it for the next day. Um, and then when we get there, there's like four different phases, I believe. I don't really listen to it. I just
What do you mean? What do you mean by phases? What is that? What does that mean? Like,
so like phase four, I think it's like they set up the lights, and then the group from phase
oh,
four do their thing, and then phase three is a different group of crew members that have to do their thing, and then phase two is a different group of crew members that do their thing, and then phase one is the actors and when we actually already have to shoot. And then there's also like the zones. So the actors, the cast are in zone A, hair and makeup are in zone A, the cameramen are in zone A, and the director is in zone A. But those are the only people allowed in the zone. And there's a
and what
specific
is
area for
zone A?
zone
Like,
A.
where is it? Is that like the best place? What I mean, what is
Zone
zone A?
zone
Like
A Zone
better
A is
cookies,
where
better craft services?
you
What
can't
is
have
it?
food. You can't have
Oh,
food
you
on
can
set
have
anymore.
food, right?
Oh,
Right.
this is
Oh,
this
how
is the
boring.
worst.
That's so
I
boring. What do you
know.
do all day besides, you can't eat?
Listen, we we have been. I mean, morale has definitely been affected because our set, and I think every TV and film set, to keep people happy, the food is always sort of like always there, and the food is always
Oh,
good because
nonstop snacking, nonstop snacking.
nonstop.
Yeah.
And so the food situation has definitely changed. And
Oh.
again, these are champagne problems, and we're just happy to be back and happy to be working. But I think that's the worst thing that's been affected by it is the food. Is that we can't just snack or and the crew guys are like they're big dudes, and they're
They're
like
hungry. They're like
work
lifting
they're
things. Yeah.
yeah, they're
So
hungry.
where
They
do
need
people,
their
so where do
food.
they eat? So where do they eat? Like what, how do you do it? I'm just so
So
curious. They bring it to your room
Crafty
or
No,
trailer? Or,
Crafty is a walk-up window. You just walk up to Crafty and you ask. You have to sheepishly beg for like can I have a bag of chips and a Coke, please?
hmm
So that's what we do now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's taken, and now an episode usually takes for us 5 days. Now it takes 6 days. They've added an extra day, so it's definitely sort of added a lot more time, and you just there's
And
already a lot
do
of
you have to go,
waiting.
do you have to go for 6 days or do you have to go every day or do they block it out? Wait, like I mean, are you shooting all the scenes like with other actors all the time or are they just shooting you or?
No, it's just they still shoot it the way they would shoot it before. It just takes longer because of the setups.
Right.
So again, it doesn't take 5 days anymore, it takes 6 days. So we just sort of extend. It's just really confusing now because like our episodes now end like on the Monday of next week, and then it goes from Tuesday through
I
Tuesday of
see.
next
I
week.
see.
So it just becomes a little confusing sometimes. But
And that's why there's fewer
it's
episodes. That's why people are doing fewer episodes of things because it's taking longer,
yeah,
right?
we
And it's
just
expensive.
are
It's much more expensive with all
mhm,
that stuff too, right?
yeah.
Are
But
people
thank
walking
God,
around in PPE equipment with the shields and all that stuff? No.
shields, face
Oh yeah.
masks, everything. And I'm very lucky enough to be part of a show where we are tackling the pandemic headline head on, and we live in a
Oh,
world in the show where we can talk about the pandemic. So, there are there like not in all scenes, but in like a lot of scenes, we're wearing masks as well, which makes for some very interesting acting choices because now we have to act just with our eyes, like Tyra Banks. Uh,
yes. Good
so,
thing you had that
but
training.
it's great. It's great to be able to tackle those issues. There are very few shows that can handle the pandemic like we can, and it's been a really, I don't know, I'm really proud to be a part of this show because we would be doing such a disservice to like essential workers out there if we didn't talk about what was going on in the world. Um, so it's been great. I'm really excited for how the season's going to develop.
Oh, that sounds cool because yeah, because the I guess the characters that you play are yeah
Yeah,
are frontline workers. Yeah. So
yeah.
when does it start? When is it premiere?
We are premiering next week, the 20, no, not next week, the 29th. That's what, two
Oh,
weeks
I'm
from
gonna
now? I
check it
don't
out.
know.
I'm interested to see what you guys do with the pandemic and stuff like that and the comedy in there. I bet you guys are
It's
finding
going to
some
be
good
great. Our first two episodes, we are dealing with the pandemic, and it's good.
in the store,
We're
I
really proud
imagine
of it.
too, right? Oh, yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah,
All right, I'm looking forward
yeah.
to watching that. I think that's going to be a really cool thing. Now, okay, one last topic. So let's, of course, after this, everybody's probably going to be tuning into those debates that are going to be on TV any minute, and those crazy things. So let's hear your POV on the world right now. I mean, there's so many. Where's your head on the world? I mean, there's so much stuff
Oh,
happening and so much
so
the
much stuff
world is
happening.
exploding all over the place in so many ways. Give me some
Yeah.
Nico on the world because I want to hear
You
that. It might make
know,
me laugh.
I just
Don't hold back. You can be
I just
politically
hope
incorrect because it's theater.
that right, exactly. I
Please
just
feel
hope that
free. Don't hold back.
everybody votes. I just really hope everybody goes out there and votes and votes for Biden. Okay, everybody just vote for Biden, please. Like, let's just get rid of the fascists that is in office right now. It's so incredible to me that people are still, I don't know why I'm surprised. I shouldn't be surprised because I sort of experienced the same thing growing up in the Philippines where we had a dictator in the Philippines when I was a child, and
Does it
and
feel
the
the
Marcos.
same in a way? Like, does
it
it feel like
it
it does? Yeah.
absolutely
Oh,
feels the
that's so
same,
interesting.
and
Because
it's
yeah.
so it's so interesting to sort of see because I was a kid when Marcos rose to power, and there was a coup attempt, and he was kicked out of the country, and was not in power anymore, and everything that Marcos was doing to sort of silence his opponents, silence like any resistance out there. The same thing is happening. The Trump is just using the same playbook. And it's just so frustrating to sort of see the same thing happening to America because listen, like, my family moved to this country because of opportunity and because there were things we couldn't, my parents really wanted a better life for themselves and for their children. And truly, like, I am the true embodiment of like the American dream. Like, I moved here when I was 16. I'm a person of color. I'm queer. Like we didn't really have a lot of money in Oregon, and my family was very working class in Oregon. And now I have this amazing life that I built for myself that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the American dream. It really is, a thing of beauty. But to see this country sort of go through the same stuff that my homeland went through and is currently going through with their current president Duterte, who is another nightmare. Um, it's just it's really sad, and it sucks because to this day, there are supporters of Marcos in the Philippines and supporters of Duterte. Um, and to see sort of America having the same thing where there's still all these like Trump supporters out there where he's in fact just ugh, I just the worst person in the world. It's truly baffling. It's heartbreaking what's happening to the country, and I just really hope that people go out there and vote for Biden and get rid of the fascists in office.
Well, that didn't make me laugh, Nico. I thought you were going to make me laugh. That made me
Well,
feel. That made me like feel so terrible. Like I feel like I'm going to get off of this and I'm going to need a cocktail. I know. Yeah. I know what you're saying though. I mean, I hadn't even thought about like how your childhood and like what you had, like how your parents had to leave and why they were leaving and it does feel so oddly similar what's happening in the country. And you're right, the only
yeah,
power that we have is to vote. But then it's still scary, like because there are people that are still going to vote for him, and so that means that what's
yeah.
happening to our culture?
I know, and there's just so many people who are still like, "Well, I'm still not going to vote for Biden. I'm going to vote third party." And I'm just like,
They're going to
just
vote for
let's just.
Kanye. They're going to vote for
Oh my
Kanye.
God,
Yeah, yeah. Kanye's running.
just get rid of the guy. Get rid of 45. Let's just work on getting him out. And then I know Biden is not the ideal candidate for some of you out there, but like let's work on not turning this country into the Handmaid's Tale first, and then we can worry
Yeah.
about putting
Yeah, well,
putting.
everything that else that needs to happen. Yeah, but I think Biden would
Yeah,
help level the country a little bit, level everybody. I think, in a weird way, the pandemic has done that in a way. And if we had a leader that was, along the lines of Biden, a unifying leader, some good might have come out of this horrible moment. And I
yeah,
think that that's, I mean, I look for that every day personally. Like I try to find the good in the moment, even though as you
yeah.
look around, it's so horrifying but yeah, I think that that's sort of like what the weird thing that's happening right now. So anyway, I think we have like I think we have like just like 3 minutes left. It went so fast.
Okay.
But tell me
Really? Wow,
something
that
else.
did
Like
go
what,
so
yeah.
fast.
So yeah, I know it went really fast. So tell me a little bit like what do you want to do after? Like, okay, Superstore. Like hopefully you'll have 10 more years on Superstore, but let's say you don't.
Okay,
What are you
so I
gonna
mean,
do? Like
like
what are you thinking?
the things that I would love to do, I would love to do another movie as my schedule allows. But I've really sort of like been getting into voiceover animation
Oh
acting
yeah.
right now. I booked a
Oh,
couple
of
of gigs during the pandemic, and it's something that I never thought of exploring, but always sort of like, had an interest in the back of my head. And now that I booked a couple of voiceover stuff, like I would really love to really sink my teeth into like a really fun character in an animated
Oh
movie. That's
yeah, I can see you
one
doing
of
that.
my one of my sort of like like vision board things is doing something for Pixar or DreamWorks or that world. I would love to create my own show. Again,
Yeah,
sort of Filipinos are the second or third largest Asian minority here in the United States, and there are hardly any Filipino stories um, out there in the media. And like I'm literally
like
one of.
hardly like none, really. I mean, like
Yeah,
it'd be. I
no,
mean,
I'm like
and it would be so
two Filipino
great.
actors.
I know it's insane. I mean, I
Yeah,
have so many. I mean, I have so many artist friends and friends who are Filipino. Like, it's just like
right.
it's sort of amazing. But yes, I mean, write a show that would be amazing because
Yeah.
you're just so funny and your stories are so funny. I think that you got to do that. You got to write a show. And what about like okay, so on a last moment before we say goodbye.
Hmm.
So I said to you, hey Nico, what play do you want to do? Like what musical do you want to be in? Like what's your dream stage role?
Ooh, my dream stage role.
And it could be a musical
Um,
because I know you love musicals.
I do love musicals. Um, Listen, I would still to this day love to be in like Miss Saigon or Les Mis. Those were the musicals I grew up with. Or maybe if they do like a revival of Sunset Boulevard, I could be Norma Desmond.
Oh, you could. You could sing that role.
I would. Oh my God, I saw Betty Buckley as Norma Desmond, and she was
I did
amazing. And I'm
too.
like,
I saw her as
ah,
that in that part too. I saw it too. We'll talk
yeah.
about that. I
And
have a funny story about that
I really do. I
offline.
know I, I want to hear it. I really do. I know I said earlier that like I had no interest in doing Shakespeare or classical theater, but I do sort of honestly after doing the play with you guys last year, it just sort of like opened up my mind and taught myself not to limit myself, and really taught myself that that there is space for me here in the world of theater. Where before in my experience in college, I was really sort of felt that there was no space for me. So, thank you and to the new group that you sort of really opened up those doors for me. But I do want to sort of now that I feel like I've dipped my toes back into theater. Now I'm like, well, maybe I should do something with Shakespeare and see how I will tackle that challenge. I would love to see
Well, that would
teach
be an
and do it.
interesting full circle for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I want to do it.
I always wanted to do a queer Macbeth. I always
Oh,
wanted to
can
do
I
that,
be
but
Lady Macbeth?
we'll talk about that another time. But I was always interested in that in that relationship as a sort of queer relationship. But
Oh my
anyway, we'll talk
God,
about it another time. I know I was always
Scott,
interested
you
in that.
better call me.
Oh, you know I will. You know I will.
I love it.
All right,
I love
Nico. I
it.
guess I guess that's it for us tonight. I could have talked to you another million hours, but
It was so good
I'm
to see
so it's
you.
so great to see your face, and I'm so happy to hear that you're back at work and that you're doing well, and that you're
Thank
not
you.
going crazy out there and all locked up as most people are. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful. You deserve it. You're a wonderful talent and a wonderful friend. And yeah, I'm just going to say one more time, Natasha Leone next week, right? She's coming up. There's her
Yes.
picture. I love that picture of her. It's so sexy. So we
It's
have
great.
Natasha. I'm sorry, I keep
The
saying next week
color.
because we usually do this one week, but it's actually Monday. Monday,
Monday.
this coming Monday
Yeah.
at 7. Come here, me and Natasha. She's hilarious, and we should have some good, fun chats. Donate. Don't forget to donate. Come on, go on our website and make a little donation tonight. There it
Do
is.
it.
Thanks.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. Give us a little cash. Come on, we deserve it. And I guess that's it for now. So, Nico, I love you, and
Love you.
we'll talk very soon.
Yes. Can't wait.
Bye.
Bye.